Minnesota is flat as a cracker. Rise up on your toes, and you can see across the state. Scarce even a tree in sight, but for a few willows beside the creeks. Father said, God put willows here that man might have switches to enforce his commandments. Father was a grim-faced Scot and a great believer in switching. Each morning he put on his spectacles, without which he was all but blind, and each evening all six of us were whipped for whatever failings he'd noticed that day. If no fault could be found, we were whipped just the same for any wrongs committed out of his sight. Wee Sarah was not spared, nor Patrick. 17 and tall, father was taller still. One chill April Sunday in 1861, we rode into church and found a crowd before the door. Mr. Nilsson was reading from the newspaper. Fort Sumter had been attacked. The gallant defenders had surrendered the next day. The president had called the Unions to arms. That such a far distant doing should, like a lever, shake Crow County amazed me. Mother wept, the men swore, despite the Sabbath. There was talk that a regiment of 1,000 soldiers was being raised in Minnesota. Patrick's eyes glittered like diamonds. So you see here they live in Minnesota. This is where the battle is. And this is a lever. You throw a weight here, and it throws all the soldiers over this way, right? Because he's being beaten by his father. He wants to get out. Reverend Boat railed against the rebels that day. His sermon subject was, "A man's worst foes are those of his own household." Father repeated the line at supper, his eyes fixed upon Patrick. That night, Father gave him a terrible thrashing. Afterwards, Patrick asked the reason. "You're thinking to scamper off," shouted Father. "Don't think I don't know it. And don't think you'll succeed." He stood his full height. "I can see 50 miles. I'll hunt you like a wolf and skin you like one." I didn't think I'd sleep that night. At dawn, I woke to find my hand holding an old willow whistle Patrick had fashioned. I knew then that he was gone and began to cry. We were 5 years apart, but dear to each other. How I did fear that he'd be caught. Then I heard Father roar, and the stone-hearted rogue took my spectacles with him. Right, his father can't get him if he can't see him.